President Biden says the fight isn't over after the Supreme Court tossed out his student loan forgiveness plan, which would have wiped out nearly $500 billion in debt for millions of Americans. In a 6-3 ruling, the conservative majority rejected the administration's argument that the HEROES Act allowed it to waive student loan rules during the pandemic. The justices said the Biden administration overstepped its authority. But the president says this plan was no different than COVID-era loans, which were forgiven.
The average amount forgiven in the PPP, the pandemic loan program, average amount forgiven was $70,000. Now a kid making $60,000, trying to pay back his bills, asking for $10,000 in relief. Come on, the hypocrisy is stunning.
Student loan payments have been on hiatus since the start of the pandemic. With the court's new ruling, those bills will be due again in a few months. With more on this story, Aniela Ruiz joins us live. And Aniela, you've been talking with Houstonians impacted by this decision.
Well, that's right. When the pandemic hit, the Biden administration put a pause on all those federal student loans and interest. But just like you mentioned, those payments could restart soon for them. It's official. The Supreme Court ruled President Biden's administration overstepped its authority in trying to cancel or reduce student loans for millions of Americans. A disappointing ruling for many.
It's frankly appalling, but something that unfortunately I wasn't surprised to see.
The student body president for the University of Houston says many of his peers will feel this financially.
Many students, many friends of mine are going to be affected, and I feel in many ways powerless to help them.
According to the White House, 90% of relief dollars would go to those earning less than $75,000 per year. They expected that 40 million people would have benefited from this across the country. And here in Texas, a little over 3.3 million. The forgiveness program would have canceled $10,000 in student loan debt for those making less than $125,000 or households making less than $250,000. Pell Grant recipients who demonstrated financial need would have had an additional $10,000 in debt forgiven.
For some, this is a difference of deciding, are you going to pay your rent? How are you going to pay for your child care? How are you going to put groceries on the table?
Tracy had her loans forgiven a few years ago through the Public Service Loan Forgiveness, and she knows how difficult it is to pay off the debt on a teacher's salary. That's why she says she feels terrible for the millions who were expecting some relief.
There was no way that I would be able to pay my student loans off. I mean, at one point, I think a couple of years ago, my payments were $800.
Experts say this will not just affect the economy, but also politically.
We're seeing a decline in trust in the court among the general public. And so the question remains, does this decision exacerbate that decline, particularly among young Americans who hold the bulk of the student loan debt?
But there were some that agreed with today's decision. Texas Senator Cornyn tweeting out the following: President Biden can't force hardworking Texans to pay off other people's debt. When you take out a loan, you agree to pay it back. Those who are already paid or who never took out loans can't be forced to pay it for you. And again, people on social media also voicing their support for the decision made today. They said if they had to pay for their student loans, then so should other people. And by the way, the Department of Education had mentioned that students should start payment again in October of this year. Reporting live, Aniela Ruiz, KHOU 11 News.